Wait, what? Fold a pair of queens? Preflop? In a micro stakes game? Are you kidding me? No, I'm not kidding you. In fact, this was probably the easiest play I made all session long. Stick around and I'll explain. Hi, and welcome back to Exceptional Poker. This is a short video taken from a training session I did recently with one of my students. He's a micro stakes, low stakes player, and we were just playing some zone poker, working on just basic hand reading, that sort of thing, pre-flop hand reading. And in this particular hand, the hand immediately before this one, we actually had just lost a big hand. It was a big cooler. We flopped bottom set on a pretty dry board, got the money in, and ended up losing to middle set. That's just a cooler. That kind of stuff happens in poker. This was the very next hand. We were dealt queens on the button, and yes, we did end up folding without seeing a flop. Let's see why that happened the way it did. Okay, so you can see we're a little bit less than a full stack here, and we're dealt queens on the button. I'll get a big stack immediately to our left. There's a guy with 13 bucks, and he limps into the pot mid position. We, of course, raise with our queens. We get cold called by that big stack, and then the big blind thinks about it for a little bit and eventually raises to 5 bucks, which is a little bit scary to us. He's going to be out of position. So this is a big raise, and it says strength. And then this guy who limped thinks about it for a minute, and you'll see what he does, and this is what makes us fold. He shoves all in. The limp-reraise shoves all in, and so I click the sit out the next hand button because I'd like to show to my student that this guy's going to turn over aces or kings. We fold, the small blind folds, and then this guy who raised to 5 bucks evidently doesn't believe this limp-reraise and decides to make the call. And you'll see that he turns over a pretty weak hand, but the limp-reraiser turns over kings. This is not really very surprising. Okay, the king-jack suited hand that the 3-seat turned over in the big blind was pretty weak and is kind of surprising. Maybe he felt he was priced in. Maybe he didn't believe the limp-reraise. Whatever reason, that was a strange hand to turn over. But the kings by the limp-reraiser was not surprising at all, and it should not be to you either. At the small stakes and micro stakes games at like 100 NL online and below, and like 2.5 live and below, you pretty much have to believe a limp-reraiser's got aces or kings. I've been playing poker for 15 years plus. I've played more than 3 million hands online, and I can count on 2 hands, 1 hand maybe, the number of times I've seen something less than ace-king suited or queens when somebody's limp-reraised in earlier or middle position. And more to the point, it's almost always aces or kings. As I said, sometimes queens, sometimes ace-king. I've seen jacks a few times. And maybe a couple of times I've seen something like 10 deuce, 7 deuce off, something like that turned over, some crazy hand, pair of fives once I seem to remember. And usually a player like that is on tilt, or they're drunk, or they're just, crazy players. Almost always though, when you see a limp-reraise, put the opponent on aces or kings. This is a really good rule. Poker's all about making reads on your opponents and then making the right play based on that read. And this is probably one of the easiest reads to make in poker. Limp-reraises are monster strengths, and almost always, it's going to be aces or kings. And just play accordingly. When you see a limp-reraise in early position, assume the guy's got rockets or cowboys. And if you got a hand as low as queens, which is at the bottom of the villain's range, remember that. Just fold it. Your queens are dominated, and there's no sense getting all your stack in when you're 99% certain that you're dominated. Just fold and move on. Yeah, it's hard to fold queens. They're such a strong hand otherwise. You've been playing a while, you haven't hit anything. In this particular situation, we just had this cooler set over set. We were smarting, and it would be really easy to make that call with queens, but that would be a bad call. And folding is the right play. So limp-reraises, early position from a villain, big hand, really big hand, and just fold. Hope you enjoyed this video. I enjoyed making it. I'd love to hear your comments in the box below. Just add your comments, or send me an email at mark@exceptionalpoker.com. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.